Hello, all. This week we are continuing with the new book of Leviticus. We concluded last week the book of Exodus, and now we are moving forward with the book of Leviticus, which in Hebrew is called Vayikra, which is translated to "and he called," referencing God speaking, calling out to Moses. In the book of Leviticus, the emphasis is on ritual, legal, and moral practices. So a little less stories, a little more, um, a little more dry, so to speak. However, there's of course profound wisdom in all the books of the Torah and in the book of Leviticus as well. And so we're going to focus a little on sacrifice. We've spoken about this in the past with Rav Cook's take on sacrifice, potentially a vegetarian future. However, I want to take a step back and focus again a little on sacrifice. So in our modern era, we asked whether should we consider an alternative to animal sacrifices. And this would be reflecting on the profound connection between humans and the living world that really transcends the ordinary physical or material value that we have. Animals, unlike inanimate objects, no matter how advanced or expensive we have, they embody a world of emotions and they represent something much more alive and real to humans. Now, during the times when the temple stood, the bond between humans and the natural world was significantly stronger than what is observed in contemporary society today. And there was a certain depth of connection that has since weakened. And many individuals today live in isolation from nature. They're surrounded by technology. And with their interactions with animals is limited to meals, supermarket encounters, or zoo visits, or watching something online, or watching Joe Rogan go hunting. But nevertheless, we don't interact with that world anymore. Now, in the past, the temple served as a profound educator, and it taught us to appreciate and to integrate our more primitive natural instincts into the fabric of human culture and specifically oriented properly. It also guided us to see that the most basic aspects of our life, if seen through a spiritual lens, and then transforming them into what we see in Leviticus 1:9, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Now, this practice created a more complete and holistic connection and intertwining the youthful and raw the youthful and raw aspects and the intellectual aspects of our beings with uh, the divine inspiration of the prophets that guided us. Now, this is of course influenced by Kabbalistic thought. It's understood that the general partnership exists between the creator and creation. Now, the question of God's need for humans is met with an affirmative, not out of necessity, right? He doesn't need that from us, but from a desire of God to engage with us, showcasing his benevolence towards us. Now, God's willingness to acknowledge humans' offerings as pleasing aromas stresses the vast kindness and relational depth with humanity that God has. Maimonides famously suggested that the institution of sacrifices was rooted in the cultural surroundings of ancient Israel, particularly during our exodus from Egypt. Now, the historical context raises the question if their relevance in contemporary times. Now, it might seem that sacrifices do belong to a bygone era. Maimonides himself, in his works, in his texts, hints that there is an enduring significance, really foreseeing the revival in the messianic future when the temple is built. Now, this anticipation suggests that rather than remnants of ancient rituals, sacrifices actually compress a timeless human desire to connect with the divine. Now, this connection is not limited to the internal spiritual practices, but also extends outwardly towards our engagement with the animal kingdom, vegetation, and the natural world in general. Now, Maimonides' perspective reveals a layered understanding of human spirituality, where acts of sacrifice symbolize a deep inherent need to encounter sanctity in all forms of life. And this is really affirming the relevance across all the generations, including our own generation today. So the discussion of sacrifice really transcends the literal act of sacrifice, and it touches upon the essential human quest for meaning, connection, and the sacred interaction with the world around us. This really is making a continuum that spans from the ancient to the modern, from the physical to the spiritual. And uh, we need to really see how we incorporate this mindset today in our daily life, and see how we engage with all the aspects of our life uh, in some sort of symbolic sacrifice towards the God, orienting it into its proper place. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and peace and tranquility.